You know there's something magnetic about a man who's lived 100 lives within one. That's Josh Brolin for you. A man who's tasted the highs of fame, the depths of addiction, the sting of failure, and somehow emerged with a smirk, some scars, and a wisdom only pain can teach. Josh was born into the Hollywood glare son of the famous James Brolin in sunny Santa Monica back in 1968. To outsiders, that sounded like a golden ticket, right? Born into glamour, destined for greatness. But for Josh, it wasn't that simple. His parents divorced when he was young, and though the Brolin name carried weight, Josh spent his childhood straddling between privilege and restlessness. He grew up partly on a ranch far from the city lights where he learned how to ride horses and get his hands dirty. But adolescence hit him like a punch in the gut. Josh got swept into a wave of rebellion. Drugs, fights, petty crime, you name it. He even got involved with a gang in high school, not because he was tough, but because he was lost. He watched friends overdose, some die, and deep inside something was breaking. But he hadn't yet figured out how to fix it. His first real break came like fate's sly wink, The Goonies, 1985. Just a scrappy 17-year-old Josh played Brand Walsh, the cool big brother every kid wanted. Suddenly, from the shadows of trouble, he was thrown under the blinding lights of Hollywood. Fans screamed his name. Paparazzi lurked. He was famous. But fame didn't fix the hole inside him. It barely patched it. He kept acting, sure, but through the late 80s and 90s, he was more a wanderer than a star. He did some films, some TV gigs, but nothing stuck. He was still that kid in a grown man's body, drifting, dabbling in drugs, even getting arrested multiple times. At one point, he was stabbed in Costa Rica during a trip gone wrong. Life wasn't a straight line for Josh. It was a messy, jagged scribble. The wake-up call didn't come in a flash. It crawled in over years. A turning point was visiting his grandmother while completely drunk. She was on her deathbed, and that raw shame cracked something in him. He sobered up. Slowly, painfully, but he did. And as he got clean, so did his career. He landed roles that demanded depth. No Country for Old Men, Milk and W, where he played President George W. Bush. Suddenly, critics looked up. Josh Brolin, the screw-up kid. He's incredible. That rebirth carried him into the 2010s like a storm. Thanos, Deadpool 2, Sicario, Dune. Each role was a layer peeled back, revealing not just the actor, but the man. He wasn't pretending pain, he lived it. But the real plot twist. Love found him again. Catherine Boyd, 20 years younger, once his assistant. People whispered, criticized. But you know what? She made him gentle. With her, he had 2 more daughters and discovered joy in fatherhood the second time around. His Instagram turned from gritty grit to sunshine and giggles. The tough guy. Turns out he's a softie for his girls. And now comes Weapons 2025, his newest cinematic storm. Directed by Zach Kreger of Barbarian fame. Weapons isn't just a horror movie, it's dread wrapped in mystery. A whole classroom of kids disappears at 2:17 a.m., leaving one lone witness. Josh plays Archer Graff, a father, spiraling into obsession, trying to find his child. For Josh, it's personal. He says being a dad now helps him channel that primal fear, the helplessness of knowing you might not protect your child. It's not just acting, it's him staring down his own fears through Archer's eyes. What makes Weapons special isn't just the chilling premise, it's what happens behind the camera. Josh Brolin didn't approach Weapons like just another gig. He stepped into it like a man with something to say. When director Zach Kreger sent him the script, Josh said he couldn't sleep that night. The story of a father chasing the shadows of his missing child stirred something raw in him. He later admitted, it was too close to home. See, when you're a father past 50, there's a tenderness, a vulnerability that comes with age. Josh poured that into Archer Graff, the desperation, the blind rage, the way grief can hollow you out. On set, he wasn't just playing a role. Crew members would talk about moments when he'd go completely silent after a take, eyes unfocused, as if still trapped in Archer's nightmare. Even Zach Kreger mentioned that Brolin's performance added layers the script didn't even demand. Josh brought this sense of weariness and fury that made Archer less of a character and more of a man you might actually know, someone you'd pity and fear. For Josh, horror movies aren't just about ghosts or gore. It's about what haunts us when the lights go out. In interviews, he confessed that his biggest fear isn't monsters, it's losing his family. That primal terror is what he channels into weapons. He doesn't scream for the camera. He screams because somewhere deep down, there's a version of himself that's lived that loss. He even said, "I think this is the closest I've come to losing myself in a role since No Country for Old Men. Because this isn't just Archer's nightmare, it could have been mine." Looking back, Josh Brolin often laughs at his younger self, the kid who couldn't stay out of trouble, the man who almost threw it all away. But there's pride too. He didn't get here cleanly, he fought for it. Every mistake, every bruise taught him something. And now he's not just an actor, he's a storyteller. Whether through acting, producing, or writing, Josh is obsessed with stories about flawed people. Broken souls, the kind of characters that remind us life is messy, and that's okay. He's working on more than films. Josh writes, meditates, and even shares poems and reflections on social media like a cowboy philosopher musing about life, love, and mortality. After Weapons, Josh isn't slowing down. He's hinted at directing his own feature someday. Plus, he's returning for Dune Part 2, and fans are eager to see him back as Gurney Halleck, the fierce yet soulful warrior. There are whispers of more collaborations with Denis Villeneuve, and even streaming projects in the works. But when asked what he really wants next, Josh simply says, to stay curious. That's it. I want to stay curious about people, about pain, about love. The day I stop being curious, I'm done. If you ask Josh Brolin today who he really is, he might chuckle, scratch his chin, and give you a half smile laced with irony. Because to define Josh Brolin in a sentence or even a biography is to miss the point entirely. He's not one thing. He's every version of himself. He's ever been the reckless teen, the bruised man, the devoted father, the accidental philosopher, and the titan of cinema who once snapped his fingers and made half the universe disappear. But long before the gauntlet, the purple skin, and the name Thanos became part of his identity, Brolin was just a kid trying to survive his own mind. His journey isn't linear. It's cyclical, a series of deaths and rebirths. He's lived through every possible shade of himself, burning some bridges, mending others, but always moving, always evolving. What makes Brolin's story unique isn't that he became a superstar that's common in Hollywood. What's rare is how openly he admits to being lost for so long, how he owned his mistakes instead of burying them. He doesn't romanticize his past. He calls it what it was, messy, shameful, but necessary. Every bad choice, every broken relationship, every moment of weakness fed the artist within him. And that's why his characters feel alive. When he plays a conflicted soldier like Gurney Halleck in Dune, or a father on the brink of madness and weapons, you're not watching someone pretending. You're watching a man channel parts of his soul he's fought with, made peace with, and sometimes still fears. That authenticity is rare, and it's why people don't just admire Brolin, they believe him. There's also a quieter side to Brolin now, one that might have seemed impossible 30 years ago. He wakes up early, meditates, writes in his journals. Sometimes he posts poetry, raw, unpolished thoughts about time, regret, fatherhood, love. He's the kind of man who stares at the desert sky for hours, then scribbles a sentence that reads like a confession to the universe. And yet he never pretends to be fully healed. He admits to having dark days, to still carrying remnants of the wild kid he once was. But now, he carries them like old friends, reminders of where he's been, not burdens to escape. His story feels less like a Hollywood script and more like an old folk song, weathered, imperfect, but deeply human. If Weapons ends up being his masterpiece, it's because the film captures everything Brolin knows: fear, loss, obsession, love, and that terrible, beautiful ache of being a parent who might fail. What's next for Josh Brolin? He says he wants to direct, he wants to write more, but above all, he wants to live deliberately. "I don't want to sleepwalk through life anymore," he said in an interview. "I did that for years. Now I want to be awake for all of it. The pain, the joy, the weirdness, I want it all." And maybe that's the real legacy of Josh Brolin, not just the roles, not just Thanos or Archer Graff, but the reminder that no matter how many times you fall, it's the getting back up, the relentless curiosity, and the courage to keep rewriting yourself that defines a life well lived.